Lily Chen woke up at 5 a.m. to the jarring ringtone of her cracked iPhone, the same routine she'd followed for 2 years since moving to Chicago. The cramped studio apartment in Wicker Park was all she could afford on a waitress's salary, but at least it was close to the acting school, where she took classes during her free mornings. She dragged herself out of the bed that doubled as a sofa, brewed a weak cup of coffee, and looked out the small window at the awakening city. At 25, she knew she was living on a financial tightrope, but she couldn't imagine doing anything else. The mirror in the tiny bathroom reflected a young woman with the East Asian features she'd inherited from her father, who had left when she was only 8, leaving her American mother to raise her alone in Evanston. Her almond-shaped eyes held a determination that not even the overdue bills could extinguish. Lily pulled her long, straight hair into a practical bun, put on the starched white blouse and black slacks of her restaurant uniform, and headed out to face another day. The L train ride downtown took 40 minutes, time she used to memorize lines from Chekhov or review her weekly budget. Her phone displayed 3 messages from the building manager reminding her about the overdue rent and a notification from the bank about her credit card limit. She took a deep breath and put the phone away. She'd learned to deal with financial anxiety as a constant companion, but she wouldn't let it paralyze her. Marcus Chen, a billionaire CEO, is being pressured to get married. To sabotage an arranged date, heiress Isabella hires Lily Chen, a theater student, to go in her place and be as unsuitable as possible. Lily, for $20, arrives at a 5-star restaurant badly dressed and behaves terribly. But instead of being horrified, Marcus is intrigued. For the first time, he meets someone genuine and authentic. Lily, thinking she's ruining the date, is actually being exactly what Marcus has always wanted, real and without pretense. But before we reveal what happens, if you also get excited about stories like this, click to subscribe now and help us bring more tales of courage and loyalty. Thank you. And now, let's see what happened. The Bella Vista restaurant occupied the top floor of a sleek skyscraper in the Loop, with panoramic views of the city. Lily had worked there for 6 months, after being laid off from her previous job when the small cafe where she worked closed during the pandemic. The Bella Vista was another world. Clients in suits and expensive dresses, conversations about multi-million-dollar deals, wines that cost more than her rent. She observed everything with curiosity, as if studying characters for a play. During the morning shift, she served hurried executives who barely looked up from their phones to place their orders. Lily had developed a special ability to read people quickly. The businessman who needed strong coffee and silence to review contracts, the lawyer who always asked for the table by the window to make video conferences, the pair of investors who discussed corporate mergers between bites of salad. "Table 12 is complaining that the salmon is dry," said Carla, the supervisor, with the tone of someone who had already lost her patience before 10 in the morning. Lily nodded and went to the table, where a middle-aged man was gesturing angrily. With a genuine smile, she listened to his complaints, offered sincere apologies, and managed to calm the situation by offering a complimentary dessert. It was a natural talent that made her popular with regular customers, even if some didn't know her name. Lunch break was sacred. Lily rushed to the small experimental theater in River North, where she took acting classes with Professor Roberto, a retired actor who charged symbolic fees to students without resources. The dimly lit room, with mismatched chairs and a makeshift stage, was her refuge. There she could be anyone: a Shakespearean queen, a Russian peasant, a powerful executive. Art transformed her, and for a few hours, the financial worries disappeared. "Lily, you have a natural gift for finding the truth in each character," Roberto would say after improvisation exercises. "But you need to trust yourself more. Insecurity is blocking your expression." She knew he was right. Years of financial instability had created a protective shell that sometimes hindered the vulnerability needed for a good performance. Back at the restaurant for the afternoon shift, the pace was more intense. Business lunches, corporate meetings, family celebrations. Lily circulated between the tables with efficiency, memorizing complex orders without writing them down, remembering the preferences of regular customers, balancing expensive plates with the delicacy of someone who knew that an accident could cost her her job. During a particularly busy afternoon, while serving a group of investors, she overheard a conversation about well-paid side gigs for resourceful people. Her ears perked up. One of the men mentioned that he knew someone who needed a person for a specific job, nothing illegal, but kind of unusual. Lily continued serving as if she hadn't heard anything, but the seed of curiosity was planted. At the end of her shift, her legs ached and her feet throbbed inside the black synthetic leather shoes. She checked her tips for the day, $120, enough to buy food for a week if she economized well. In the locker room, she changed out of her uniform into the simple and comfortable clothes she wore every day. Faded jeans, a plain t-shirt, and worn sneakers that had seen better days. The walk home saved her transportation money and gave her time to think. She passed the bookstore where she sometimes browsed through plays she couldn't afford to buy, the bakery where the owner sometimes gave her day-old bread, the small grocery store where she bought only the essentials. It was a life of constant calculations, but Lily had learned to find beauty in the details. The sunset turning the buildings orange, the smell of coffee coming from the windows, the conversations of neighbors on the sidewalks. At home, she prepared a simple pasta with tomato sauce and sat at the only chair at the folding table to eat while reading a text by Tennessee Williams. The apartment was quiet, but not lonely. The walls were decorated with posters of plays she had seen for free at premieres or open rehearsals, constant reminders of her dreams, bigger than the current circumstances. Before falling asleep, she stared at the ceiling and did her usual mental calculations. How much she needed for next month's rent, how much she still owed on the credit card, how much she could save if she worked a few extra weekends. But she also dreamed of the day she would be on a real stage, telling stories that touched hearts, making a living from the art she loved. She fell asleep, embracing that dream, without imagining that in a few hours a casual conversation would completely change the course of her life. Diane. The next morning, Lily was setting up the restaurant tables when an elegant woman approached the counter. She was about 30 years old, with perfectly coiffed blonde hair and wearing a dress that probably cost more than Lily's annual rent. Her blue eyes seemed anxious, almost desperate, contrasting with her sophisticated demeanor. "Excuse me for bothering you," the woman said with a slight accent Lily couldn't quite place. "My name is Isabella Rothschild. I heard you do extra different jobs." Lily stopped arranging the napkins and looked around. The restaurant was empty at that hour of the morning, just her and Carla, who was in the office. "Extra jobs?" she asked cautiously. Isabella leaned over the counter, lowering her voice. "I need someone to stand in for me on a date. It's complicated to explain, but I can pay you $20 for your afternoon." $20? Lily almost laughed at the ridiculous amount, but something in the woman's discreet desperation made her hesitate. "What kind of standing in?" "My family. My mother, actually, arranged a blind date for me with a very important businessman here in Chicago. I'm supposed to be flying to Paris today for an art exhibition, but she won't take no for an answer." Isabella sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I need someone to go in my place and be, well, absolutely inappropriate. Rude, uncouth, everything a woman of my social standing would never be, so that he gives up on these arranged dates once and for all." Lily processed the information slowly. You want me to sabotage your date? Exactly. And the worse you are, the better. Isabella opened her designer purse and pulled out a crumpled $20 bill. I know it's not much money, but that's on purpose. It needs to look like you're desperate for any work. Lily's eyes fixed on the bill. $20 would buy ingredients for 3 days' worth of dinners, or maybe she could pay part of the overdue electricity bill. But mostly, her actress's mind was intrigued by the proposal, playing the opposite of a refined socialite. It was an interesting challenge. How did you find me? Lily asked. One of the clients here mentioned that you seemed resourceful, that you did theater and might be up for unusual jobs. Isabella glanced nervously at her watch. My flight leaves in 4 hours. Are you in or not? Lily took the bill, feeling the rough paper between her fingers. Where's the date? RPM Italian at 8 o'clock tonight. You'll introduce yourself as Isabella Rothschild. The man's name is Marcus Sterling. He's the CEO of some tech company. Rich, powerful, probably arrogant. Isabella took a business card out of her purse. This is the only information I have about him. The rest you improvise. What if he finds out I'm not you? Impossible. He's never seen me. It was all arranged by our mothers through old photographs. Isabella smiled for the first time. By the way, you'll need to dress completely inappropriately for the place. Ripped jeans, old sneakers, a plain t-shirt. The more out of place, the better. Lily looked at her own uniform. And what exactly should I do during the date? Be yourself, but in the most exaggerated version possible. Eat with your hands, criticize the food, complain about the prices, talk loudly, be everything a well-bred European heiress would never be. Isabella was already heading for the door. Oh, and if he asks about my life, make up the most absurd stories you can. The more ridiculous, the better. After Isabella left, Lily stood holding the $20 bill, trying to process what had just happened. Carla came out of the office at that moment. Who was that woman? She seemed kind of desperate, the supervisor commented. A customer asking about the menu, Lily lied automatically. The rest of the day passed in a haze of anxiety and planning. During her breaks, Lily researched Marcus Sterling on her phone. She found some photos on business websites. A handsome man with dark hair, always in a suit, a professional smile that didn't reach his eyes. The articles talked about a tech company valued at billions, about innovation awards, about a young CEO who had revolutionized the American digital market. At 6 in the evening, Lily was at home, getting dressed for what she mentally called the performance of her life. She chose the most ripped jeans she had, a basic white t-shirt with a small coffee stain she had never been able to completely remove, and the most worn-out sneakers in her wardrobe. She looked in the mirror and laughed. She looked exactly what she was, a waitress on her day off. The trip to RPM Italian in River North was an adventure in itself. Lily had never been to the famous restaurant, but she knew its reputation. As she got off the L train at the nearest station, she felt like Alice falling down the rabbit hole. The streets were clean, the cars were imported, the people looked like they had stepped out of a fashion magazine. In front of the restaurant, she hesitated for a moment. A valet in an impeccable uniform looked at her with obvious curiosity. She took a deep breath, remembered the $20 in her pocket, and Roberto's lesson about finding the truth of the character. Only this time, the character was an exaggerated version of herself. "Good evening," she said to the receptionist, who clearly wasn't expecting someone dressed like her. "I have a table reserved. Isabella Rothschild." The man consulted the list, the discomfort evident in his expression. "Certainly, Miss Rothschild. Mr. Sterling has already arrived. This way, please." Lily followed the receptionist through the elegant dining room, feeling all eyes turn to her. It was exactly the reaction Isabella had asked for. At the back of the restaurant, at a reserved table overlooking the interior garden, was Marcus Sterling. Unlike the formal photos she had seen online, he looked younger in person, with a curious expression in his dark eyes when he saw her approaching. He stood up politely when she reached the table, extending his hand. "Isabella, Marcus Sterling, it's a pleasure to finally meet you." Lily shook his hand harder than necessary and threw herself into the chair without waiting for him to pull it out for her. "Hi, wow, what a fancy place. I bet a glass of water here costs more than my lunch." "Entirely." Marcus blinked, clearly surprised, but smiled. "Well, you're definitely different than I expected." "Oh yeah? And what were you expecting?" Lily asked, picking up the menu and making a face. "Wow, they don't have a burger here. What kind of restaurant doesn't serve a burger?" And so, without realizing it, Lily began the performance that would completely change their lives, ignoring the fact that Marcus Sterling didn't seem at all bothered by her behavior. In fact, for the first time in months, he was genuinely smiling. Lily threw herself into the character with a dedication that surprised even herself. She grabbed a roll from the breadbasket and started eating without using the small plate, letting crumbs fall onto the white linen tablecloth. Marcus watched with an expression she couldn't decipher, but that definitely wasn't horror, as Isabella had predicted. "So, Marcus," she said with her mouth half full, "tell me what you do for a living. Besides frequenting fancy places, of course." "I work in tech," he replied, resting his chin on his hand as if he were watching a fascinating show. "And you? Tell me about your life in Paris." Paris. Lily choked slightly on the bread. Isabella had mentioned something about flying there, but hadn't given any details about her supposed life in the city. Improvisation was one of the specialties that Roberto had taught her in theater. "Oh, Paris. It's very Parisian, you know," she began, gesturing exaggeratedly. "I live in a gigantic apartment in the fanciest neighborhood there. What's the name? Oh yes, Champs-Élysées." She made a dramatic pause. "Actually, it's not really an apartment. It's a small chateau I inherited from my great-aunt, who raised flamingos." Marcus almost choked on his wine. "Flamingos?" "Yes, pink flamingos. She said they matched the decor." Lily was enjoying seeing his reaction. "And I paint huge pictures of feet." "Feet? Bare feet in the sand. It's very conceptual, you wouldn't understand." Lily took another roll and examined it critically. "This bread doesn't even have real butter. In Paris, the butter is much more yellowish." Instead of looking uncomfortable, Marcus laughed genuinely. It was a rich, warm sound that echoed through the elegant restaurant, causing other customers to look in their direction. "You're refreshing, Isabella. Most of the people I meet would be afraid to admit they can't distinguish types of butter." Lily felt a strange pang in her chest at the compliment, but quickly remembered the mission. She needed to be even more inappropriate. When the waiter approached to take their order, she pointed to the most expensive dish on the menu. "This one, the fillet of whatever it is, how much does it cost?" The waiter politely informed her of the price. "Wow, for that price I can buy meat for a whole month and still have some left over for the butcher." She looked at Marcus. "You're paying, right? Because I forgot my wallet at the Flamingo Chateau." "Of course," Marcus replied, seeming genuinely amused. "And would madam like an appetizer? Do you have fries?" Lily asked the waiter, who seemed almost offended by the question. "No? What kind of restaurant doesn't have fries?" "Okay, then just bring me those fancy things there." After the waiter walked away, Marcus leaned forward. "Can I ask a personal question?" Lily felt her heart race. Had he discovered something? "Sure. Why did you accept this date? I mean, you're clearly not the type of person who usually frequents this environment." It was a dangerous question. Lily chewed slowly, buying time. "Well, my mother forced me. She said you were rich and that it would be good for the family business." She decided to go even further. "Actually, She said that if I didn't come, she'd cut off my allowance, and I need the money to buy paint for my foot paintings. I see, Marcus said, nodding seriously. And what about you? What do you think of me so far? Lily studied him for a moment. It was a strange, almost vulnerable question. In the online photos, he seemed confident and unreachable, but in person, there was something softer in his eyes, almost lonely. You're different than I expected, she admitted, momentarily forgetting the character. I thought you'd be more arrogant. Why arrogant? I don't know. Rich men usually are. At least in the movies. Lily took another roll. But you're all right, for a millionaire. Billionaire? Marcus corrected with a half smile. Oh, sorry, for a billionaire. Lily paused. It must be lonely at the top, huh? The word lonely came out in English without her realizing it, an expression she had learned watching subtitled movies. Marcus seemed surprised. You speak English? A little. I learned it watching documentaries about flamingos, she improvised quickly, to better understand my great-aunt's animals. When the food arrived, Lily attacked the plate with her hands whenever possible, praised the seasoning exaggeratedly, and criticized the size of the portions. For this price, it should come with at least twice as much, she commented, wiping her hands on the linen napkin as if it were a paper towel. But as the night wore on, she noticed that she was genuinely having fun. Marcus asked interesting questions about art, about travel, about life, and when she forgot to maintain the inappropriate character, her true answers made his eyes sparkle with interest. You have a very unique perspective on things, Marcus said during dessert. It's refreshing to meet someone who isn't trying to impress me. Lily felt a pang of guilt. If he knew that the whole conversation was an elaborate lie. And you? She asked, trying to deflect the focus. Don't you get tired of everyone trying to impress you? Marcus was quiet for a moment. You have no idea. Sometimes I feel like no one really knows who I am beyond the money and the company. It was a moment of honesty that caught Lily off guard. For an instant, she completely forgot that she was playing Isabella and almost responded with her own experience of feeling invisible as a waitress. But she recovered quickly. Well, I don't care about money, she lied, knowing that the $20 in her pocket said otherwise. For me, you're just Marcus, a guy who pays for expensive dinners. When they left the restaurant, Marcus insisted on calling a private driver to take her home. In the car, he turned to her. Isabella, I'd like to see you again. Maybe something more casual next time? Lily felt panic rise in her throat. She had been hired to ruin the date, not to create a second one. I have a lot of appointments with the flamingos. Please. It was the most interesting conversation I've had in months. There was something in his voice that made her hesitate. Before she could think of a convincing excuse, she heard herself saying, Maybe we can see each other again. When the car stopped in front of her modest building in Wicker Park, Marcus seemed genuinely surprised by the contrast, but didn't comment. Until next time, Isabella, he said, kissing her hand chivalrously. Walking up the stairs to her apartment, Lily knew she had just complicated her life tremendously. What had started as a simple $20 gig was turning into something much more complex. And the worst part was that for the first time in years, she had felt truly seen by someone, even if it was through a lie. Lily had barely slept the night before, tossing and turning in her narrow bed while she thought about Marcus's genuine smile and the way he had listened to her every word with real attention. When she arrived at the restaurant the next morning, she had deep circles under her eyes, and her hands were trembling slightly as she set up the tables. Carla noticed immediately. You look terrible. Were you out last night? Sort of, Lily mumbled, trying to focus on the morning routine. But with every customer she served, she thought about how special she had felt being listened to by someone, even if it was through a false identity. Around 10 in the morning, her phone rang. Unknown number. Isabella, it's Marcus. I got your number from my mother. I hope you don't mind. Lily's heart leaped. She quickly went to the back of the restaurant. Marcus, hi, how did you get... I wanted to thank you for last night. It's been a long time since I've had so much fun. His voice sounded genuinely cheerful. I was thinking, how about we have lunch today? I know a place that's less formal, more your style. Today, Lily's voice came out an octave higher. I can't today. I have appointments with the flamingos. Marcus laughed. Isabella, you're adorable with those stories of yours. How about tomorrow then, or the day after tomorrow? I need to check my schedule, she stammered, going into complete panic. I'll call you later, okay? After hanging up, Lily leaned against the back wall, breathing heavily. How had she gotten herself into this situation? She needed to find Isabella immediately and tell her that the plan had failed miserably. During her lunch break, instead of going to the theater, she ran to a cafe with free Wi-Fi and started searching for Isabella Rothschild on social media. What she found made her feel like she'd been punched in the stomach. The most recent photos showed Isabella in Paris at elegant vernissages, posing next to sculptures in sophisticated galleries. She was stunning, naturally blonde, with delicate aristocratic features, wearing clothes that cost more than Lily's annual salary. But it wasn't just the beauty that intimidated her. It was the whole world that Isabella represented. Refined, education, international travel, important connections, a life of infinite possibilities. Lily looked at her own reflection in the dark screen of her phone as the photos loaded. What had she been thinking? That a man like Marcus Sterling, accustomed to women like Isabella Rothschild, could really be interested in a waitress from Wicker Park who shared a 200-square-foot apartment with roaches. She tried to call Isabella, but the number went straight to voicemail. She sent messages via Instagram, but the account was set up not to receive messages from strangers. Despair began to grow in her chest like a weed. Back at the restaurant, she couldn't concentrate. She dropped a plate of salmon at a table of important customers, forgot orders, gave the wrong change twice. Carla called her into the office during the afternoon. Lily, what's going on with you today? The customers are complaining. I'm sorry, Carla, I'm not feeling well. Look, you're one of the best employees we have, but if you keep going like this, I'm going to have to send you home. And you know we can't deduct the day. A day without pay meant skipping meals. Lily nodded quickly. It won't happen again, I promise. But when she returned to the dining room, things got worse. Marcus Sterling was sitting at table 15, wearing an elegant grey suit, browsing a menu with a smile on his face. Lily felt her legs give way. He was there, at her workplace, looking for Isabella. She tried to hide in the kitchen, but Carla pushed her back out. Table 15 has been waiting for 10 minutes. Go. With her heart pounding in her chest like a hammer, Lily approached the table, keeping her head down and hoping that he wouldn't recognize her without the characterization from the night before. Good afternoon, she mumbled without looking up. Would you like to order? Actually, I'm waiting for someone, Marcus said. A special friend, Isabella Rothschild. Do you know her? Lily almost dropped the order pad. No, sir, I don't. Know her? That's strange. She told me she frequented this place. Marcus studied her for a moment. Are you sure? She's a blonde woman, very elegant. I'm sure. Lily lied, still avoiding his gaze. Would you like to order something while you wait? Marcus ordered a coffee and stayed there for 2 hours, checking his phone constantly, looking at the entrance of the restaurant every time someone arrived. Lily watched him from afar, seeing the expectation on his face gradually turn into confusion and then into something that looked like disappointment. When he finally left, he left a note with the waiter. If Miss Isabella shows up, tell her that Marcus Sterling was here waiting. That night at home, Lily cried for the first time in months. She cried for the lie she had created, for the impossibility of the situation, for the way she had allowed herself to believe, even if for a few hours, that she could be someone special to a man like Marcus. She took the $20 that Isabella had given her, still untouched in the dresser drawer. 20 measly dollars that now seemed to have the weight of a fortune in complications. She had been hired to do a simple job, ruin a date. Instead, she had created expectations that she couldn't fulfill and feelings that she had no right to nurture. Her phone rang again. Marcus, Isabella, I've been thinking maybe I was too forward yesterday. If you prefer to take things slow, I can respect that. Just don't disappear completely, please. You brought something special to my life. The voice message ended, and Lily stared at the phone, tears blurring the screen. How could she explain that Isabella, the real Isabella, was in Paris living her real life, while she, Lily Chen, was here holding a phone in a tiny apartment, falling for a man who didn't even know her real name? For the first time since moving to Chicago, Lily considered giving up. Giving up on theater, on the city, maybe going back to Evanston and accepting a simpler, more honest life. Because continuing with that lie would not only break Marcus's heart, but was tearing her own apart. She had gotten herself into something much bigger than her ability to solve, and now she saw no way out without destroying everything and everyone along the way. 3 days passed without Lily being able to muster the courage to answer Marcus's calls. Each ring of the phone was like a stab of guilt, but she no longer knew how to sustain the lie without delving even deeper into the deception. During her shift at the restaurant, she lived in a state of constant alert, fearing that he would show up again. It was on Thursday, during her break at the theater, that the solution came in the most unexpected way possible. Lily was on the small stage, rehearsing a Chekhov monologue, when she heard footsteps in the empty auditorium. She expected to see Roberto, but an elegant female figure descended the stairs between the rows of mismatched chairs. Isabella Rothschild, back from Paris, looked even more sophisticated than the first time, wearing a beige wool coat that probably cost more than the used car Lily dreamed of buying one day. "We need to talk," Isabella said, her voice echoing in the small theater. Lily stepped off the stage, her legs trembling. "Isabella, I can explain." "You don't need to explain anything. I already know everything." Isabella sat down in one of the chairs in the front row, crossing her legs elegantly. "Marcus contacted me. He found my real number through mutual contacts and called me last night in Paris." Lily's blood ran cold. What did he say?" "He thanked me for the most interesting date he'd had in years. He said I was completely different than he expected, that he found me refreshing and authentic." Isabella paused, studying Lily's face. "Of course, I had no idea what he was talking about, until he mentioned my great-aunt's flamingos and the paintings of feet." Lily collapsed into a nearby chair, burying her face in her hands. "I'm so sorry. I ruined everything. I know you wanted him to give up on the dates, and you did. Exactly the opposite of what I asked," Isabella interrupted. But when Lily raised her head, expecting to see anger, she found something unexpected in the heiress's blue eyes, genuine curiosity. "Tell me exactly what happened that night." In a choked voice, Lily recounted everything. The attempt to be inappropriate, the absurd stories she made up, the way Marcus had reacted with amusement instead of horror, and most importantly, how she had felt special being heard and appreciated for who she really was, even through a false identity. Isabella listened in silence, nodding occasionally. When Lily finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You know what's most interesting in this whole story?" Isabella said finally. "When Marcus described the woman he met, he wasn't describing the Isabella Rothschild who appears in social magazines. He was describing someone real, genuine, who made him laugh and feel comfortable. She leaned forward. He fell for you, Lily, for the person you really are. But he thinks I'm you, rich, sophisticated, from the same world as him. Does he really think that? Isabella raised an eyebrow. He saw where you live. He saw how you dress, how you talk, your opinions about money and ostentation, and he still wants to see you again. Don't you find that revealing? Lily blinked, processing the words slowly. It was true that Marcus had seen her modest apartment, had laughed at her comments about the prices of the restaurant, had seemed genuinely interested in her simple opinions about life. But I lied about everything, she murmured. My name, my story, who I am. You lied about details, but your personality, your values, your way of seeing the world, that was real. Isabella got up and began to walk around the small theater. You know what? When I grew up being raised to be the perfect Isabella that everyone expected, I always wondered what it would be like to be loved for who I really am, not for what I represent. She stopped in front of Lily. Marcus Sterling is known for only dating women from our social circle, socialites, heiresses, daughters of businessmen, always the same polished conversations, the same events, the same expectations. And for the first time, someone surprised him. Someone was real with him. But how can I keep lying? Sooner or later, he'll find out that I'm not you. Isabella smiled for the first time since arriving. Who said you need to keep lying? What do you mean? Marcus called me apologizing for having bothered Isabella Rothschild with his calls. He said he realized that I was avoiding his contacts and that he would respect my space. Isabella made a dramatic pause. I told him that Isabella Rothschild had returned to Paris indefinitely, but that I had a distant cousin, also named Isabella, who had been very impressed with him and would like to continue corresponding. Lily stared at her, speechless. You did what? I created a way out for you, a way to continue getting to know Marcus without the pressure of being someone you're not. Isabella took a card out of her pocket. This is a new phone number that I bought today. It's registered in the name of Isabella Chen, a Brazilian artist who lives in Chicago. Isabella Chen, half of your real name, half of mine. An identity that allows you to be exactly who you are without lying about your origin or your life. Isabella held out the card. Lily, you have a chance that many of us never had, to be loved for who you really are. Don't waste it out of fear. Lily took the card with trembling hands. But why are you doing this? I ruined your plan. Actually, you perfected it. Marcus will no longer accept dates arranged by his mother, not after discovering what a genuine date is, and I can focus on my art in Paris without family pressure. Isabella smiled. Besides, there's something poetic in two people meeting through a lie and discovering a truth. She headed for the exit, but stopped at the door. Oh, Lily. When Marcus asks about your cousin, Isabella Rothschild, say that she's eccentric and values privacy very much. That will explain why she doesn't want any more contact. After Isabella left, Lily was alone in the silent theater, holding the card. For the first time in days, a spark of hope ignited in her chest. Maybe there was a way to transform that complicated lie into something true. Maybe she could get to know Marcus as he really was, and let him get to know her too. But first, she would need to find the courage to make that call and find out if the feelings she had seen in his eyes were real enough to survive the truth. Lily held the card with the new number for 2 whole days before mustering the courage to use it. During that time, she mentally rehearsed dozens of conversations, but they all ended with Marcus discovering the truth and hanging up the phone in disgust. On Friday night, she finally typed a simple message. Hi, Marcus. This is Isabella Chen, a cousin of the Isabella you met. She gave me your contact and said you two hit it off. The answer came in less than 5 minutes. Isabella Chen, your cousin told me about you. I would love to chat. Can I call? When the phone rang, Lily almost didn't answer, but his voice on the other end of the line was as warm as she remembered. Isabella, it's great to hear your voice. Your cousin told me you're an artist too. Tell me about your work. For the first time, Lily could talk about herself without completely lying. She told him about the theater, about her dreams of acting, about the financial difficulties she faced to keep the dream alive. Marcus listened with genuine interest, asking insightful questions about art and creativity. They talked for 2 hours. In the end, Marcus asked if they could meet in person. I don't know if that's a good idea. Lily hesitated. Why? Your cousin said you were interested in getting to know me better. It's just, we're from very different worlds, Marcus. You're a successful businessman. I'm just a what? A talented artist who works hard to achieve her dreams? His voice softened. Isabella, what attracted me most to your cousin was exactly the fact that she didn't live in this artificial world of appearances. If you're anything like her, then we're more compatible than you imagine. They arranged to meet on Sunday at an art fair in Wicker Park. Lily purposely chose a location close to her neighborhood, where she felt more comfortable and where Marcus could see her in her natural environment. Sunday dawned cloudy, matching the whirlwind of anxiety in Lily's stomach. She dressed carefully, choosing a simple but pretty dress that she had bought used at a thrift store. She was arriving at the fair when her phone rang. Carla from the restaurant. Lily, I need you to come in to work today. Mariana called in sick and we have a private party booked. It's an important event. It'll bring in a good tip. Carla, I can't today. I have an important appointment. Lily, you know we need you. It's a group of businessmen. They're going to spend a lot. If you don't come, I'll have to rethink your position here. Lily's world collapsed. Without the job at the restaurant, she wouldn't be able to pay even the rent for the next month. But if she canceled the date with Marcus, I'm coming, she mumbled, hanging up the phone. With a broken heart, she called Marcus. Marcus, it's me, Isabella Chen. I need to cancel our date today. A work emergency came up. That's a shame. I was looking forward to meeting you in person. He sounded genuinely disappointed. What kind of work do you do besides theater? Lily hesitated. Another lie formed on her tongue, but the words came out true. I work as a waitress in a restaurant to pay the bills. There was silence on the other end. Lily closed her eyes, expecting the judgment, the change in tone that would indicate that Marcus was re-evaluating his interest in her. That's admirable, he said finally. Working hard to support your dreams. What restaurant? The Bella Vista, in the Loop. I know the place well. So you're going to work now? Yes, unfortunately. How about I show up there? We can chat during your breaks. Panic completely took over Lily. Marcus at the restaurant meant risk of running into colleagues who might mention the strange date of a few days ago, meant being seen as an employee, meant, I don't think it's a good idea to mix work with personal life. She hung up quickly and ran to the restaurant, her heart beating erratically. On the way, the reality of her situation hit her with full force. She was in love with a man who didn't even know her real name. A man accustomed to sophisticated women, while she was just a waitress who shared an apartment with roaches and counted pennies to buy food. At the restaurant, the private party was exactly the type of event that used to intimidate her. Executives in suits talking about million-dollar deals, their wives displaying jewelry that cost more than a car. Lily circulated among them serving champagne and canapés, feeling more invisible than ever. It was when she heard a familiar voice coming from the main table that her world completely crumbled. Interesting, this new generation of tech entrepreneurs. That Marcus Sterling, for example, built an empire before he was 30. Lily almost dropped the tray. She turned slowly and saw Marcus sitting at the main table, talking animatedly with other businessmen. He was there, at the restaurant, at the party she was serving. Their eyes met across the room. The smile of recognition on his face slowly turned into confusion, then into something that looked like betrayal. Lily saw the exact moment when he connected the dots. The waitress who had said she didn't know Isabella Rothschild days before. The woman who had just cancelled a date claiming a work emergency. The voice on the phone that he was learning to love. Marcus got up from the table and started walking towards her. Lily panicked completely. She left the tray on the counter and ran to the back of the restaurant, then to the emergency exit. She was descending the steps 2 at a time when she heard his voice echoing in the stairwell. "Isabella, or should I say Lily Chen, I can explain your name on the plaque of your apartment." She stopped, leaning against the cold wall of the building. It was over. Everything was over. Not only the impossible dream of a relationship with Marcus, but probably her job too. Carla wouldn't forgive an employee who created drama during important events. Sitting on the steps of the emergency stairs, Lily finally allowed the tears to fall freely. She had tried to be someone she wasn't, and now she was losing both her false identity and her true one. Marcus would go back up to his party with important people, and she would return to her tiny apartment, alone with the certainty that she had destroyed the only real chance at love she had ever had. The worst of all was that for a few precious weeks, she had allowed herself to believe she was worthy of something more. Lily remained on the fire escape for 20 minutes, until the tears dried and a strange calm took over her. When she finally went back up to the restaurant, Marcus had disappeared. Carla found her in the locker room, putting away her uniform with mechanical movements. "Lily, what happened? One of the clients from the party asked about you. Said you two knew each other." "It wasn't anything important," Lily lied, avoiding the supervisor's gaze. "Can I leave? I'm not feeling well." At home, Lily threw herself on the bed and stared at the ceiling for hours. Her phone rang several times, Marcus trying to call, but she didn't have the courage to answer. What could she say? How could she explain the elaborate lie she had built? It was only on Monday morning, when Roberto found her at the theater practicing the same monologue repeatedly with an almost fierce intensity, that she realized what she needed to do. "Lily, what's this energy today? You're playing Lady Macbeth, like your life depended on it." "Maybe it does," she murmured, without stopping moving around the stage. "Want to talk about what's going on?" Lily stopped in the center of the stage, looking at the empty auditorium. "Roberto, have you ever lied to someone you loved? A big lie that changed everything between you?" The professor approached, his gray eyebrows furrowed with concern. "Lily, every great love story has lies in the middle. The question is, do you have the courage to tell the truth now? What if the truth destroys everything? What if not telling it destroys you?" Roberto's words echoed in Lily's mind throughout the day. While serving tables at the restaurant, Marcus didn't show up, to her simultaneous relief and disappointment. She reflected on everything that had happened. For the first time in her life, someone had been genuinely interested in who she was. Yes, through a lie, but Marcus had fallen for her real personality, for her authentic opinions, for her simple way of seeing the world. Isabella had given her a golden opportunity with the Isabella Chen identity, but Lily realized that even that half-truth was still a lie. Marcus deserved to know Lily Chen completely. The waitress, the struggling actress, the woman who counted pennies but had immense dreams. That night after work, Lily did something she hadn't done in years, called her mother in Evanston. "Mom, it's me, Lily." "Daughter, what a surprise. Is everything okay? You sound different." Lily told her mother everything: the lie, the date, the confused feelings, the fear of not being good enough. Her mother listened in silence, then said something that changed everything. "Lily, when your father left, I thought I would never be worthy of being loved again. I spent years hiding behind excuses, thinking I didn't deserve happiness. Don't make the same mistake I did. If this man saw something special in you, maybe you should trust his judgment." On Tuesday, Lily made a decision. She researched everything. About Marcus's company, about his social projects, about his personal story. She discovered that he had grown up in a middle-class family in Naperville, that he had built the company from scratch, that he financed scholarships for low-income youth interested in technology. He wasn't just a spoiled millionaire, he was someone who had fought for his achievements. Armed with this information and a courage she didn't know she possessed, Lily did something audacious. She called Marcus's company and managed to schedule a meeting, identifying herself as Lily Chen, a personal acquaintance who needs to talk about an important matter. The receptionist scheduled her for Thursday at 3 in the afternoon, 3 days to prepare for the most important conversation of her life. Lily used those 3 days as an intense theatrical preparation. She rehearsed what she would say, how she would explain the lie, how she would apologize. She bought with her last savings a simple but elegant dress on clearance, not to impress, but to feel confident. On Thursday morning, she asked for a day off at the restaurant and spent hours getting ready, not to be Isabella Rothschild or Isabella Chen, but to be the best version of Lily Chen possible. She did her nails at home, styled her hair in a simple but careful way, chose a subtle makeup that enhanced her East Asian features. Before leaving home, she looked in the mirror and made a promise. No matter what happened, she would be completely honest. If Marcus rejected her after knowing the whole truth, at least she would know that she was rejected for who she really was, not for a false version of herself. The building of Marcus's company was imposing, all glass and steel in the heart of the magnificent Mile. Lily felt intimidated but didn't back down. At the reception, she said her real name and waited, her heart beating like a war drum. When the elevator stopped on the 20th floor and the doors opened to reveal a modern office with panoramic views of the city, Lily took a deep breath. Somewhere on that floor was the man who had inadvertently stolen her heart, the man to whom she was about to tell the most vulnerable truth of her life. The secretary led her through a long corridor to a frosted glass door. "Mr. Sterling is waiting. For you." Lily stopped in front of the door, her hand trembling on the doorknob. On the other side was Marcus, probably furious, certainly distrustful, possibly willing to listen to her before kicking her out of his life forever. It was now or never. It was the chance to fight for true love or accept that some dreams are too big for some people. Lily Chen opened the door and entered the room, ready for the fight of her life. Marcus was standing behind a huge desk, looking out the panoramic window. When he heard the door open, he turned slowly. His face was serious, but his eyes showed more curiosity than anger. "Lily Chen," he said, and her real name sounded strange and at the same time right coming out of his mouth. "We finally meet for real." Lily closed the door behind her and stood still, her hands interlaced in front of her body. "Marcus, I came here to tell you the whole truth. I know I have no right to ask for anything after everything I've done, but I need you to listen to me." He gestured to a leather chair in front of the desk. "I'm listening." Lily sat on the edge of the chair, as if she were ready to run away at any moment. "First, I need you to know that I'm not a criminal. I'm not a con artist. I wasn't trying to take advantage of you. It all started with a job that I offered for $20. And then she told him everything. She started with Isabella Rothschild, appearing at the restaurant, desperate to sabotage the arranged date. She talked about the $20 that made her accept the task, about how she had tried to be intentionally inappropriate, about how his reaction had been completely unexpected. I was supposed to be rude, crude, everything you would despise in a woman. Instead, for the first time in my life, someone really listened to me. Someone laughed at my jokes, was interested in my opinions. Lily's voice trembled slightly. I fell in love with you that first night, Marcus. Not for your money, not for your position. I fell in love with the way you looked at me as if I were special. Marcus listened in silence, his face unreadable. When Isabella came back from Paris and created the Isabella Chen identity for me, I thought maybe it could work, that maybe you could get to know the real me, little by little. But I was sinking deeper and deeper into the lie. Lily took a deep breath. My real name is Lily Chen. I'm 25 years old. I live in a tiny apartment in Wicker Park. I work as a waitress at the Bella Vista to pay the bills. And I study theater in my breaks because I dream of being an actress. I have no money, no important connections. I have nothing but big dreams and a lot of determination. She stood up, taking the crumpled $20 bill out of her pocket. This is the $20 that Isabella paid me to ruin your date. I never spent it because it became a reminder of how everything started. Now I want to give it back because you deserve the complete truth. She placed the bill on the table between them. I know you must be furious. I know you'll probably never forgive me for lying. But I needed you to know that all the genuine moments we shared were real. My laughter when you told your stories, my interest in your life, the way I felt special by your side. That was all Lily Chen, not Isabella, whatever her name is. Marcus picked up the $20 bill, examining it as if it were a precious artifact. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than Lily expected. Lily, can I ask you a question? She nodded, prepared for anything. That first night, when you complained about the prices of the restaurant and ate bread with your hands, were you really acting or being yourself? I was exaggerating behaviors of mine, trying to be an amplified version of who I am. Marcus smiled for the first time since she had entered the room. And when you said you didn't care about money? I lied. I do care about money because not having enough money is a constant worry in my life, but I would never be interested in someone just for money. And the great aunts. Flamingos! Lily laughed nervously. Pure invention. I don't even know what flamingos eat. Marcus got up and walked to the window. Lily, you want to know what I found out when I started investigating who you really were? Her heart leaped. You investigated me? After that day at the restaurant, when I realized that something didn't add up, I hired a private investigator. Not to harm you, but to understand. He turned to face her. You know what he found out? That Lily Chen works 2 shifts whenever she can, that she studies theater in a place that charges almost nothing because the professor believes in her talent, that she once spent her last $50 bill buying medicine for an elderly neighbor who had no way to pay. Lily stared at him, surprised. How do you... That once you found a wallet on the street with $300 and ran after the owner to return it, even knowing that that money would solve your problems of the month. Marcus approached her. That your co-workers adore you because you always help those who are struggling, even when you yourself are in a bind. He stopped in front of her, still holding the $20. Lily Chen, you are the most genuine person I've ever met. And yes, I fell in love with you that first night. Not for the Isabella Rothschild that you were pretending to be, but for the Lily Chen who was trying to hide. Tears began to roll down Lily's face. Marcus, these $20, he said, raising the bill, were the best investment of my life because they brought me you. He leaned down and kissed her softly, a kiss that tasted of truth and second chances. 6 months later, Lily premiered her first professional play in a theater downtown. Marcus was in the front row, applauding as if she were the most brilliant actress in the world. The play's program had a special dedication. For Marcus, who taught me that true love sees beyond the masks. In the dressing room after the performance, Marcus handed her a small framed picture. Inside was the $20 bill with a golden plaque underneath. The beginning of our story. "Lily Chen," he said, kneeling in the makeshift dressing room, "will you marry me? With all your dreams, all your truths, and all your $20? Between tears of happiness, Lily said yes to the man who had fallen in love with her exactly as she was. Imperfect, dreamy, and completely real. And they lived happily ever after, proving that sometimes the best love stories start with the most improbable intentions. Dear listeners, we hope that Lily Chen's journey has touched you deeply. Her story reminds us that true love blossoms when we have the courage to be authentic, even when vulnerability seems frightening. To continue this emotional journey alongside other characters who have discovered the strength of truth and authenticity, we have prepared a special playlist with equally captivating narratives that explore the mysteries of the human heart. Find this collection of stories by clicking here on the side. If the saga of Lily and Marcus stirred emotions in you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Each gesture helps us continue bringing stories that celebrate the complexity and beauty of human relationships. Every day, our narrators delve into new adventures of the heart, and we don't want you to miss any of these transformative journeys. Share in the comments. Have you ever lived a moment like Lily's, where being true changed everything? We're waiting for you!